Good morning and welcome to the Business Mechanic. Whenever you are driving your vehicle and you break down, who are we taking it to? We are taking it to our mechanics. Now, if we are mowing the lawn and our mower breaks down and that Briggs and Stratton breaks down and we can't fix it, who are we taking it to? We are taking it to our mechanic. Now, if our business breaks down, who are we taking it to? A lot of times we may have somebody that we rely on as a friend or a co-business owner or even a group of individuals. They have different programs out there that offer a step by step in how to run their business and how to make their business more successful. And I've worked with a handful of those groups. Now, I'm not I'm not going to sit here and bash any of those groups. It's not the intention of any of that. Those groups do have a place. Now, understandably, when those groups are designed, they want to make sure that they have enough to keep building their value with that particular customer. Totally get it, totally understand it. However, what happens in a lot of those cases is, a lot of the good stuff doesn't come until later. And what they do is they'll say, hey, if you sign up for this service, you're going to get this, this, and this now. So we're going to make your business even better. So it's just I don't want to say a scheme or a scam or anything like that because I don't believe it's any of that. I think it's just a way to keep the worth going. Now, what I'm trying to develop here is basically what the word mechanic means. I'm here to fix your business when it needs to be fixed. And once it's fixed, then great, go on about your day and let's keep going. But eventually, history has shown us that the business will break again because there are so many moving parts with the business, and especially in automotive. What what really happens a lot of time in the automotive repair world is you'll have mechanics that are coming straight out of tech school. They get on with a dealership normally and they're making good money, but they don't like the political politics that come with corporations. And I say that quote unquote because it's a term that I've heard so many times when I go into automotive repair shops. Don't make us corporate. And usually I will ask the question, well, what is corporate? What is corporate to you? And 9 times out of 10 it just comes down to accountability factors. A lot of people want to work and they don't want to necessarily work and be held accountable for what they do. So therefore, when they go into this world, they say they don't want to be corporate, quote unquote. Hi, Pantherhead. Welcome in. Panther Dad. Sorry. Welcome in. So what I'm doing here with the mechanic is I'm going to go and have a 4-week series. I'm going to break down each week. And as you can see on here, day 1, 2, 4, and 5. The reason day 3 isn't there is because day 2 is going to be a 2-day talk. So let's jump right into this. What leadership actually is: awareness and presence. So let me screw this over here. Awareness, what it means is awareness matters, right? Leaders can't influence what they can't perceive. Awareness drives clarity, confidence, and emotional stability. And presence creates trust before you ever speak. Now, as I break that down, what this means is leaders can't influence what they can't perceive. What that means is a lot of leaders need to be present. They need to be in the realm of what they are trying to fix. Now, a leader does not need to be there every minute of every hour that they're open, but they do need to be there if there is something happening, right? If they're having an issue with a customer, if they're having some personnel issues, if they're trying to recruit people for the store or they're interviewing, whatever it may be. Now, if the business is running like a well-oiled machine from day to day, then you don't necessarily need your leader to be there the whole time. Because what happens in a lot of cases, leaders start to flirt with the line of being a leader and a micromanager. So what happens is leadership goes right out, and that person becomes a micromanager because they feel like they're the only ones that know how the business runs. And if that's the case, that has nothing to do with the employees, but everything to do with the leader, because the leader has not properly trained their employees. I always say a busy manager is a shitty manager, because a manager is made to manage, right? That's what they do. They manage, they delegate the work, they process the work, and what their job is to make sure that they understand all the talents of each one of their employees, and then they properly delegate the work accordingly. So, but ineffective leaders, you'll start to see them putting all the jobs on one person because they're the workhorse, quote unquote, but then leaves everybody to their own devices. And that's unfortunate, because a lot of times you have all the talent in the world, but as a leader, you're not identifying the talents that they have. You become a micromanager. So, and you don't have no trust. A micromanager has no trust whatsoever. They don't, because they have either been burnt or they feel like they're the only ones that know anything. And they feel like if it wasn't for them, the businesses wouldn't even run, which is so far from the truth. A lot of times when a business runs really well and that micromanager walks in, the business goes to crap fast, because then everybody starts to stand around. Because if you're micromanaging people, all they do is sit there and wait for the next thing that they have to do. So I get off track a little bit there. That's in another day. But awareness drives clarity. And what that means is a leader must be able to go into a place of business, and they need to make sure that every single one of their employees has complete awareness of what their duty is and what the day-to-day responsibilities and expectations are for that particular store or business, or whichever you want to say. Because so many times what happens are there are so many people that are left in the dark, and they're left to try to figure it out. And then you've got some managers or leaders that are afraid if they share too much of what they know, then they're not worth anything, and they feel like they're going to get replaced. So what happens in those scenarios is everybody is running around with their head cut off with no actual direction. And then you've got a manager that is stressed out because they're doing all the work, supposedly. So as you can see, then what happens is discombobulation comes in, stress comes in, people get very short with one another. And the next thing you know, a customer walks into this mess. And if you think a customer does not feel it when they walk in, they do. They know right away when there's tension in a building. They do. Because it's all about how they greet. So again, presence creates trust before you ever speak. Okay. Next slide. 2 types of awareness. It says I should increase my mic volume. Let's see if this helps it any. I'm going to turn it up here a little bit more. Okay. So there's 2 types of awareness. Okay. So if you want to, internal awareness, right? Emotions, triggers, strengths, and blind spots. Okay. So emotions is basically how they're being led by that manager. If you have a manager or a leader that they're better at belittling somebody than they are building somebody, then you're going to have a lot of emotions tied in there. Then you're going to have people that don't want to share because every time that they shared something, they got belittled or they got knocked down. Well, then what happens is that person just finds their place, they find their corner, and that's where they stay. And then a leader will leave, he'll go to his constituents and say, so and so just isn't involved. They're just, you know, they're not interjecting. They're not being a part of the team. Well, they're not being a part of the team because you're a crappy leader. Because every time that person tried to speak up, you just belittled them. You talked down to them. You didn't try to build them. So that's why emotions happen. Then there's trigger points. And leaders, what they'll do is they'll find out real quick what people's trigger points are. And when they start using trigger points, they're not a leader anymore. They just turn into an asshole. And what they do at that point is then, if you're not being effective in the place of business and your emotions are starting to take over, then that person will start to hit trigger points. Why? I have no idea why. I don't know the why behind that. I don't understand what goes on in some people's heads to think that is an effective way of leading people. I don't. So then what happens is now we don't know the strengths of that individual. And then we have blind spots. What that means in the blind spots is we'll have an employee that has great strengths and great talents. And something will happen in a blind spot where that employee could have very easily probably fixed that situation, but they won't, because they're like, I am not going to lift a finger to help anybody because I know what my manager will do to me if it's not to the way that they expect it to be. And that's a hostile work environment, is what that is. That is a work environment that nobody wants to work in. Nobody. So then you start looking at the external awareness, right? Now we start looking at the team dynamics, the energy in the room, and the impact of your behavior as a leader. If you come in and if you are leading the people like I just explained, you're not going to have any dynamics whatsoever. But if you're leading a team opposite of what I was just describing, then you're going to have team dynamics. Every time I would walk into a store or any one of my warehouses, I had team environments. I did, because I gave everybody ownership of the position that they were in. And I didn't micromanage them. I coached them. I guided them. And I let them form their own opinions and let them make their own mistakes and let them make their own or provide their own wins. And I was there to congratulate them on their wins. And I was there to help them through the losses so they could turn those losses into wins. And that creates a team dynamic. So what that does is it allows every member of that team to work cohesively together. So if you have someone over here that is failing, you may have another individual over here that's already seeing that and will interject and help, right? But this person here has to understand that this person here is coming to help and has not necessarily come to knocking them down, which this person has become accustomed to because that's the type of leader they have. But if we have the type of leader that I just discussed, then these two can work cohesively, and you're going to have great energy in the room. And then you have a great impact of that behavior. Nothing is more exciting for me is to walk into a store and seeing customers interject with everybody, right? Because sometimes what happens is you'll get advisors that get very territorial. And it'll be like, don't be talking to my customer. That's my customer. Right? Which we don't want to have. So that is slide 2. Slide 3. Okay. I have to see it. So presence, the leader signal. Presence is communicated through posture, tone, pace, attention, and intentionality. Okay? 1, posture. Posture is a big thing. Now, when I was going to school, I took a class I took a semester that was about learning the language of the body. And I can tell you that was a huge eye opener for me. Excuse me, I need to get a drink. I don't know where. And if I look like I have a stiff neck, I do, because I didn't sleep well. So, posture means everything. If a person comes in there with a closed stance with their arms crossed as a leader, then it can look like they're looking down upon. This one here. If you see someone talking like this, be very, very careful of that person. This means this is their crown, right? And what that means is that person is now talking over their crown down to you. So if you have a person that starts to talk like this, they're no longer teaching, they're preaching. So just a little tidbit. So your posture is very important. Your tone is very important. The one thing about me in leadership is I will never raise my voice. I will never yell. Never. And for me, there's only 2 people on this earth that have the right to yell at me. And one is no longer with us, and the other one is my mom. And if you don't look like my mom, you better lower your voice. So tone is very, very, very important. Pace. How you are talking, how you are presenting, how you are coaching, right? Now, if I come in and I talk 100 miles an hour and I'm trying to get you to, and I'm going pace fast, well, not everybody can learn in that fast of a pace. The pace, it doesn't have to be a slow pace, but it has to be a medium pace. That's why the people that are a little bit slower at learning can come up, and the people that learn in a very faster pace can come down. And attention. My goodness, nothing is more irritating than when I'm working with somebody and they're not paying attention. And I'll have a conversation with that individual. And I'm trying to talk to them. And they're not paying any attention. And it makes you feel like whatever you're saying has no importance. And a lot of times what that means, if they don't have attention to what you are saying, then they don't respect you as an individual. And attention has to be intentionally. You have to intentionally pay attention to individuals. And if you see that your leader or your manager is not paying any attention to you, then stop your conversation and just say, very politely say, when you are in a point that you are not preoccupied, let's talk then. Because I see that you're preoccupied. It's very respectful. And a lot of times, if that person is an understanding person, they'll know that they haven't been giving you the attention that you so deserve. And they will either shift away from it or just say, yeah, I've got a lot going on. Let's curb this. So next, the awareness gap. How do I see myself versus how others experience me? This is where a lot of people break down. Because they don't know how others are seeing them. They feel like what they're doing is correct, and it's not. And a piece of advice to whoever is out there listening right now, don't just automatically agree with somebody because you don't want to have a fight. That is the worst thing to do. Because what happens, and I've worked with several people that are like this. I have some friends that are like this. But they will sit there and say, the sky is purple, the sky is purple, the sky is purple. And that person can be a hard person to communicate with. They're either very direct, they're very short, they belittle, whatever it may be. So people will just intentionally agree with them because they don't want to deal with any of the stuff that comes from it. And now that person starts to develop a false sense of reality. So now they have the mindset that whatever they say goes because nobody has challenged them. Now, individuals like me, I will come in and say, no, the sky is blue. It's always been blue. I don't know why you think it's purple. Well, since everybody agreed with that individual saying the sky is purple, I now become the enemy, when in fact, I'm the one that's actually telling the truth. So be careful with people that are hard to talk to. Just tell them the truth, whether they want to hear it or not. They need to know it. So what happens is an individual that has this false sense of reality thinks everybody is perceiving them as they perceive themselves, when it's so far from the truth. So as a leader, when you are going in somewhere and you are leading a group of people, consciously put yourself in those people's shoes and see what they're seeing, and see if you can't understand what you're trying to present. And if you can't, then you need to adjust. Next one. Awareness diagnostic questions. Okay? Ask your audience, what do people feel when you walk into the room? Okay? Question 2. What do you unintentionally communicate under stress? Question 3. What patterns do you repeat without noticing? Okay, practice tools for awareness. All right, daily check-ins, emotional labeling, feedback loops, presence reset. Okay, first of all, daily check-ins. Daily check-ins is exactly what I was saying in the beginning. Checking in on your team members, all right, or your teammates. Checking in with them. You have no agenda. You have nothing to manage or discuss or develop. All you're doing is merely checking in on that individual. Okay? Then emotional labeling. What that means is start understanding what each and every one of your teammates or team members' emotional pieces are. All right? And then put a label to those. That way, when you're starting to build a relationship with your team members and teammates, you will know by a label what emotion that person is in that particular day. Hi, Marcus. Thanks for joining. Now, every week, I do it at the end of every day. I do a presence reset. I do breathing, pausing, and I ground myself. Because I don't want to unintentionally get myself into that false sense of reality position. Okay. Leadership challenge for today. Choose one moment today to practice intentional presence, meaning before a meeting, before a conversation, before making a decision. Okay? Have a conversation with yourself on how you think that conversation is going to go. And make yourself aware of what that other individual is sharing with you. I promise you, it'll be eye-opening. And I'm excited for you to do that. I need to open up another image here. 1 second. Okay. So now we're going to have a little bit of reflection time. This takes, like I said, between 20 to 35 minutes on the presentation. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about communication equals accountability and trust. And we'll kind of set the expectation that tomorrow builds directly onto today. All right. Reflection time. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close out these images really quick. If you're still with me, I appreciate this. Today is the first day of going live. I go live at 11 a.m. and at 7 p.m. So I do appreciate Panther Dad for you tuning in through all of this. For tomorrow, we're going to talk about communication, the accountability, the trust, and we're going to get more into the micromanagement and the difference between micromanagement and coaching. We're going to get more into that tomorrow. Now, a reflection for today's topic of what leadership actually means with awareness and presence. My reflection to today is what it actually means. A good leader is always aware and they're present. They don't just come in, and there's a difference between having an, how do I want to say this? There's a difference between having an agenda coming in, right? When you have an agenda and you're coming in, an agenda is basically a list of questions or statements or terms that's going to help guide your time in that store. Now, if you have an agenda and you're going in there and you want to talk to employee 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and your agenda stays the same, that's great. But be aware of what they are sharing with you. Make sure you're intentionally listening to them and you're intentionally writing down notes. And then when you're done having the conversation with them, reflect back on the conversation you just had. So that way the person has trust in whatever they shared with you, that you actually took it. Because a lot of times when we have a meeting and we sit down, when we have sitting, like all the time we have a meeting and we're sitting down with an individual, nothing's worse than when you pour out everything that's bothering you and that individual doesn't even take a note, or that individual is not even listening. They're either on their phone or they're easily distracted. Because for one, they don't have any respect for you. And that's the other part of it that I really do not understand and I don't like, is I have talked to a lot of different people that are business owners that have the mindset that that person needs to earn my trust before I am going to do anything for them. Well, I'm sorry, but that is literally one of the dumbest mindsets you can have as an individual. Because for me, when I hire a new individual and I bring on a new person, you have my trust day one. And the reason for that is because you, as the new employee, can go anywhere. You can choose to work anywhere you want, but you chose to work with me. So therefore, you are putting all your trust into me to help guide you to make you a successful employee in my work. That means a lot to me. So if you're giving me that trust, I'm going to give you my trust. And we are going to start building a team from day one. So what happens in a lot of cases, as individuals that think, I'm only going to give you my trust because your performance, or I'm only going to give you my trust because you're loyal, is a person that you will see has a high turnover rate. Because people want to be a part of something today. They want to feel like they're a part of something. They want the acknowledgement, right? You don't need to coddle them, but you need to acknowledge, like, hey, great job today. You really killed it, but we need to discuss this part. Now, I would imagine on here, and 90% of people would much rather be talked to that way versus any other way. So I give you trust at day one. Now, I tell people, especially outside sales individuals, I will tell them that I give you trust on day one. And if I call you and you just so happen to be at home having a sandwich and Oprah or whatever's on TV, tell me that. You want to know why I want you to tell me that? Because then I know you're telling me the truth. So when I do call you and you are actually in front of a customer, I have every reason to believe that you actually are. So always tell the truth. I tell my boys, even if it's the hardest thing to do, tell the truth. Because then I know I can trust you, and I'm going to keep working in you and with you. Because all the success that I have gotten up to today has came from every individual that I've ever worked with. Not because of me, because I have learned from so many people. When I ran warehouses, I was known as the fix-it guy. I would come in and I would right the ship. And I'm going to tell you, what I did was nothing earth-shattering. What I did is I just took away the handcuffs. I came in and let the employees run their company, run their job. And I was there as a leader to help guide them and help direct them. That's all I did. I didn't do anything else. That's it. Because who is going to know the job better than the person actually doing the job every day? Now, sure, I can come in and I could probably have a pretty good rule or a pretty good understanding of that person's job, but I'm not going to know it through and through like the person that's actually doing it. So that's why we empower those individuals. Okay. That's my reflection for today. Now, since this is my first live, we're right at 37 minutes, 35 minutes. I think I was a few minutes late. Are there any questions that I could help answer today? Thanks for all the likes. I appreciate that. No questions? Okay. Again, thank you for tuning in today. I will be back on at 7 p.m. today, going over the exact same topic. And then be sure to tune in tomorrow to talk about communication with accountability and trust. And we're going to start dissecting the difference between micromanagement and coaching. So I'm excited to see you guys all tomorrow. I'm going to end it with be kind and let's get to work. Talk to you all soon.